If you're thinking about moving to the Fraser Valley and you're trying to decide between Abbotsford, Mission, and Chilliwack, I've made this video for you to try to make your decision a little bit easier. Each one of these cities has its own vibe. Each one of these cities has its own pros and cons. And through this video, I'm hoping you can make a better decision to find out what you like. My name is Dilpreet. I've lived in Mission and Abbotsford for 30 plus years. I haven't lived in Chilliwack, but I love hiking, so I do frequently go and visit Chilliwack. I have tons of friends who live in Chilliwack, so I know a little bit of Chilliwack, but my expertise is mainly in Abbotsford and Mission. The first thing that I want to cover is housing and affordability. I know the decisions that most people make is based on the cost of a house or how much it's going to cost to rent. So let's dive into that first. Generally, Abbotsford is going to have higher prices than Chilliwack and Mission. Mission is usually a bit more expensive than Chilliwack. So if we're ranking them by affordability, Chilliwack is at the top as most affordable. Then you've got Mission and then Abbotsford right underneath. However, even though Abbotsford is the least affordable of these cities, I feel like it's still the most competitive and it's harder to get a house, especially for first-time home buyers. So if you're a first-time home buyer and I mean, most people make their choice based on affordability, what they can actually afford. Chilliwack is definitely going to be your best option, but what you're really giving up is convenience. And I'm going to talk a bit about that later because it's a bit out of the way. Now that I've covered housing and affordability, let's talk about amenities and lifestyle next, because each of these cities is going to give you a different type of lifestyle. So we talk about lifestyle. Abbotsford offers a little bit of everything. Got nice maybe not nice or the greatest shopping malls, but we do have shopping malls. You have nice little coffee shops. You can get all different types of food, different type of restaurants. And one of my favorite places is Mill Lake. It's a park, so there's also tons of parks in Abbotsford. I love going to Mill Lake to go and clear my mind, just going for a nice walk there. It's a beautiful place to be. Abbotsford also hosts a yearly air show. And if you haven't seen it before, I really recommend it. You got to go and see it at least once in your life. People come from all over the mainland. Maybe some people I even see coming from the States, maybe other parts of BC. But the air show in Abbotsford is absolutely phenomenal. If you're looking for nightlife, we had Town Hall here, which recently just shut down. There really isn't many options for you if you're looking for nightlife. You're looking for like clubbing, partying, things of that sort. Abbotsford really isn't the place to be for that. But you can drive 25 minutes, 30 minutes to Langley, and you can find some really good spots. Now let's talk about Chilliwack. The lifestyle in Chilliwack is really all about the outdoors. They've done a lot in their downtown city center, so there is a decent amount of shops that are like thriving in the 1881 district. But what I personally love Chilliwack for is its nature and its beauty. They've got Cultus Lake, tons of different hikes. Some of my favorite hikes are in Chilliwack, tons of different hikes. So if you're really into outdoorsy stuff, into hiking and nature, Chilliwack is definitely the place to be. Mission is definitely more on the quiet side. They do have some shops, restaurants, things of that sort. I do think it doesn't offer as much as Chilliwack and Abbotsford. So it's more on the quieter side. If you're looking for like a quieter place for your family to go, that's definitely going to be a good spot for you. And Mission is also very close to Abbotsford. So you can get to Abbotsford in about, well, depending on where you are in Mission, you can get to from Mission to like downtown Abbotsford in 15, 20 minutes. And while we're talking about commuting, let's talk about commuting for all these three cities. So Abbotsford, the highway basically runs right through Abbotsford. It's going to offer the most convenience when it comes to commuting, depending on where you want to go. If you live in Mission and you're going to Vancouver, it might take just as long from Abbotsford to Vancouver. Really depends on where you're going into Vancouver. But I would say the biggest perk of Abbotsford, if you're trying to choose between all these, you don't want the longest commute. Abbotsford is definitely the best choice for you. And public transport out of Abbotsford is okay. I would say out of 10, it's like a 5. So not great, not amazing. It's okay. And I would say the transit, all three of these cities is kind of at that level. They're smaller cities, so the transit isn't that great. And what about Chilliwack? What about commuting from Chilliwack? Chilliwack is definitely the furthest. So from Abbotsford, from where I live, if I'm going to go to Chilliwack, it's going to take me like 30 minutes on the highway. There usually isn't a ton of traffic, which is nice. In rush hour, it can get pretty busy. But if you're working in Vancouver, you're working further out in the greater Vancouver area, and you live in Chilliwack, expect to spend that extra time daily 30 minutes each way driving. So that might be a deterrence for some people. I know personally for me, I would hate that adding an extra hour to my day. But it's a cost thing too, right? So if you can get a house that's $100,000, $200,000 cheaper in Chilliwack, that might be worth that driving for you. And I talked a little about commuting from Mission. If you're going to Vancouver, could take just as long from Abbotsford, depending on where you want to go. But the big benefit that Mission has is they have the West Coast Express. So you can hop on the West Coast Express. Does it run all day long? No. So they've got a bunch of trains that go in the morning and they come back in the evening. But it's great for people working in Vancouver. If you have like a set schedule, you can hop on the train. They're really, really comfy. When I was going to university in Vancouver for a couple of weeks, I was taking the West Coast Express. So I was living in Vancouver for most of the time. For a little bit, I moved back home and I was taking that West Coast Express. I would drive to Mission, park my car there, and I would take the West Coast Express to downtown Vancouver. Super convenient, super comfortable. I told myself I would get a lot of work done because it's super spacious. They've got like great tables. I usually just slept. Honestly, it's super comfortable. And if you want an easy commute to Vancouver, Mission is definitely the place to be for you. The next thing I want to talk about is outdoor activities and natural beauty. And all three of these cities in their own way kind of shine because tons of nature, tons of natural beauty in Abbotsford, Mission, and Chilliwack. Abbotsford, I would say it's decent if you go to East Abbotsford, Sumas Mountain. Lots of different trails, bunch of different hikes, especially if you're into mountain biking. It's great for mountain biking. If you go to Mission, they've also got some good little hiking areas. They've got Cascade Falls, which is one of my favorite things to do in the summer. They've got like a man-made water slide there if you hike up a little bit further. However, if we're talking about, nature, natural beauty, Chilliwack definitely wins this one. It's surrounded by Cascade Mountains, tons of different hikes for you. So if you're like a nature lover, Chilliwack is definitely your best choice, but that doesn't mean Abbey doesn't have any nature or Mission doesn't have any nature. They all have their own little bits of nature. Chilliwack just has more options for you. Chilliwack also has a bunch of, we talk about Cultus Lake a little bit, great lake to go to. There's Lindeman Lake, which is a nice hike. You go up into the mountains. There's a beautiful lake up there. Just Chilliwack's natural beauty. I love going hiking there. I don't mind living in Abbotsford and, I'm not hiking every single day. So on some weekends, I can make that drive out there. That's why I love Abbotsford and I want to go to some hikes in Mission. I can go hike out there. There's some close by in Abbotsford. If I want to go towards Maple Ridge, I can drive out to there. And a lot of hikes are towards Vancouver. So again, I live very close to the highway. I can just get on and commute quite easily. And the last thing I want to talk about is the community of each of these cities and the demographics. So Abbotsford is definitely the most diverse, a melting pot of cultures. Lots of different cultural festivals happening throughout the year in the city. Lots of different events going on. They do have a lot more going on in Abbotsford event-wise compared to Mission and Chilliwack. Abbotsford also has a lot of family-friendly events, and all these cities are very family-friendly. I think Abbotsford may just cater more towards family-friendly events or has more family-friendly events. And demographic-wise, depending on what part of Abbotsford you're in, so if you go to some other videos, I've talked about this, but like the west side of Abbotsford, you're going to find even more diversity, a lot of Punjabis, a lot of Indian people, more South Asians, and further you go towards East Abbotsford, it's going to be more Caucasian. Chilliwack, on the other hand, is completely different. I would say Chilliwack has the least amount of diversity. It really has like a small town feel, small town charm. Not saying there isn't any diversity at all, and there's more and more diversity as years pass in Chilliwack, but it's definitely the least diverse, least cultural. Regardless, it's still a very family-friendly city. People there are generally very nice. Anytime I've been to Chilliwack, I haven't had any issues with the people there. Great people. I have a lot of friends who live in Chilliwack. I still think it's a great community for people to move into. And Mission's kind of right in the middle here. It's not a melting pot, but there is more diversity than, let's say, Chilliwack. And it's a smaller, more tight-knit community. So there's one major high school. So most people, not everybody knows each other, but you're going to know a lot of people in the city. People are closer. You know a lot more people by name for sure. So I grew up in Mission up until grade 4 or 5. And again, I had some great experiences. I met great people. My neighbors were all absolutely amazing. My family had immigrated here before I was even born, and all my neighbors, I treated them so well. Even though all my neighbors were Christian, they were white, they didn't look like us, they treated my family amazing. We got along well together, and it's a great community to be in. So I hope this video has helped you decide which city is best for you, if it's Abbotsford, Chilliwack, or Mission. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. You can also head to my website, livinginabbotsford.ca. I would love to help any way that I can. See you guys on my next video.